Greetings everyone, and welcome to Rise and Decline of a Galactic Imperium, a let's play by me, Xerxes. Rise and Decline of a Galactic Imperium is a currently freely available print and play sci-fi wargame, I'd say. It's for one player, so it's Solitaire, and as you can see by me being in Vessel here, the game also features a vessel module, which I have helpfully already set up according to the rules which I've recently printed out. Now, we are going for the full campaign game, so that's 60 turns all in all. And if we are to survive this, then whew, this is going to be some fun. At least I hope so, because if this is not fun, then we'll know right away. And let me assure you, we'll change something if it doesn't. So, while you're waiting, you might hear something in the background. That's because I'm assuming that this will be going on for quite some time. As it's going on for quite some time, that means that we'll have, well, a bit of time in between. And since I'm a person who really loves ambient music, I've decided to start a YouTube playlist of sci-fi music. So I hope you're not alarmed by this. Actually, I'm not even sure you can hear it. So, I have now determined whether you can hear the music I am currently listening to while playing this beautiful little game. You can't. At least not from me recording it right now. The only thing you'll hear is some sort of, deep sounds like the bass. Which is kind of strange, but then again, I've listened into the first couple test recordings. Doesn't seem to sound that bad in between. So, let's go to the game. As you can see, the game is already set up. I did this so we can jump right in. You'll note that a few of the markers that are supposedly to be set up are currently missing. But first, let's take a look at where we are and who we are. According to the base game rules, which I would tell you about if the game would allow me to. It's now. So, according to the... What the hell? It seems my computer is quite slowed down. Yes, it seems that he is quite taken up with the fact that I'm currently trying to play this game. So, let's go for the PDF. There we have it. So, Rise and Decline of Galactic Imperium. Solitaire board game for one player by Rickard Ehrman, version 0.6. In the course of this game, you will help shape your early years of your future empire into the mighty stellar imperium of power until the duress from within and without will tear at your glorious realm, threatening to tear it apart, while you are doing all you can to prevent that fate. The game basically wants you to survive 60 turns. All in all, at the same time, you're trying to acquire victory points. According to the game itself, there is a number of victory points you need to at least achieve a marginal victory, because the game knows several different, let's say, victory point standings. We have the defeat, 0 to 19, the draw 20 to 39, and the marginal victory starting at 40. But of course our target is the decisive victory, but that's only at 80 plus. So as I said before, let's take a look at our current situation. We know that the homeworld sector, sector 6-4, which is always the homeworld sector, starts under imperial rule, as do up to 4 adjacent systems, which we can freely select according to the random movement axis on the first H chart, E4. Now, I've taken the liberty and, according to E4, chosen 4 of those different sectors, which are adjacent to our homeworld sector, though not adjacent for not movement purposes, which it seems, because what adjacent means seems to change depending on the situation. For now, I've just decided that adjacent in the case of the setup means that I can basically put one of those 4 counters around as I wanted. I've also thought about whether adjacent in this case only means, to the left, to the lower part, to the right, up. Could also be, but we'll see about that. Now, why am I thinking about that? Because as you can see, our early empire has already started its expansion, and it has done so by starting a grab towards the sector 3 row with 5-3 and 6-3. But we've also expanded into the 5-5 sector and sector 7-4. And whom have we to thank for that? Most likely Leader 1, the first leader. And of course, he's using the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Legion and the 1st and 2nd Fleet. Now, what does that mean? Well, as you can see, it seems each sector has 4 different spaces. You have the event space, where you can mark a special event happening in that sector. The system space, where you put all units, friendly or otherwise. The sector space, which tells you where the F you are. And the control space. Because, as you can, let me show you this. I can, because this is Vassal, mark the Imperial Rule marker, right click and flip it, and suddenly there's a revolt on the home world. That would be quite bad, but really it's not. So, as you can see, some markers have a flip side to them, like the Imperial Rule and the revolt markers. So I flip it again, and it's back under Imperial Rule. So as you can see, sectors under our rule can revolt. As far as I can tell, sectors not under our control can't. But that'll be something for a very different time. Now, the Stellar Mat, which goes from 10-6 to 1-1, as you can see, we have the Northern Rim, the Periphery sectors, the Southern, Eastern, and Western Rim, and of course the core systems. Sector 2.2 has an asteroid field, which is placed on the control space. Now, why would that be? Simply, there's a special project, basically something that adds victory points if you succeed at them, where you can use the sector with the asteroid field and build a space station there. The problem with it is that because there's no habitable planet in that system, you basically can't do anything else there. You can park your fleets, but won't help them. You can't repair them there. So there's that. That would be for the Babylon project later on. Now, on the right side, we have the political and track mat. Let's take a look at that. You see, for the political and track mat, we have, for example, the Imperial Senate. As you might have already guessed from all the green and golden laurels, we are sort of a Roman Empire in space. I mean, we're using legions, but this is, according at least to the rules, only a stand-in. Later editions of the game are supposed to feature differing, though mechanically equally working political mats, so that you basically can exchange whom you are playing. If you want to play as an Imperial Senate, or if you want to play as some sort of democracy or dictatorship. Oh, I'll assume that those will come with changes to the base game mechanics. Perhaps they'll even be included in expansions, or in the base game itself, who knows. Now, first we have the Imperial Senate. The Imperial Senate consists of up to 6 senators. The Imperial Senate is much bigger, as I'm told, but the Imperial Senate itself is only on here because certain senators have important positions. Those important positions are the Interior, War, Foreign Relations, the Treasury, Research and Development, and clandestine activities. Now, each senator for these important departments can have one of 3 states. He can be neutral, he can oppose us, or he can support our actions. Unfortunately for us, this is checked every turn. Now we can try to influence it, with investing imperial funding, but we'll come to that later. As you can see for now, for the setup I had to roll, and the senator for the interior supports us, and the senator for the war ministry, well, he opposes us. At the moment, that's not as bad as it could be, because right now there's no real threat outside anywhere, but it might soon be, because at the end of every turn you'll have to make a check for possible piracy, and that's really like a foreign. Now, foreign relations, he's neutral, he doesn't care. Next to it, we have the Senate demands. The Senate demands is a very interesting mechanic because it basically is a random minor event that can happen during which the Senate basically tells you, we want you to do this. And this can change depending on the current game age. You know, there are three ages in the game: the expansion of the empire, the power of the empire, and the decline of the empire, and this can change depending on which age you are in. But for now, you see, there is a conquest, there is expansion, diplomacy, expedition, R&D, or prestige project. These are six basic possibilities. Now, there is another one, which is nothing. You see, sometimes the Senate wants nothing. Why is that important? Basically, it's important because when the Senate demands something of you and you don't do it, you lose victory points. As we have already established, victory points is a very important thing to have because it means that you'll have a stronger base not only to work from, but also because higher victory point counters lead to a better victory position. That is, if we are to win at all and aren't killed by a precursor weapon during the first turn. I don't think that can happen, but I'll not be surprised by it. I have seen games where something like this can happen. Next to it, we have the Imperial Society. Imperial Society is based on four different categories. We have politics, economy, values, and future society. Now, as you can see, all of them are currently on the first row, which is a frontier politic, a simple economy, survival values, and no future. This doesn't mean that we don't have a future, but rather that our society is currently focusing on these things in a way that basically doesn't give us any bonus. Because right now, we have frontier politics, which represent the informal governing arrangements made in early colonies, before population levels reach heights requiring more advanced forms of government. As you can see, we can evolve into a police state, a democratic state, a fundamentalist state, our economy can become free market economy, a planned economy, or green economy. Our values can later be power, knowledge, or wealth, and our future society can be cybernetics, becoming cyborgs, eudaimonia, basically the pursuit of happiness, and thought control. And doesn't that sound like fun? Now, down here we can see at which tech level the future societies are activated. You might wonder why we're not seeing when the other society levels are activated. That's because all of those are achievable from the very start of the game. We basically don't have them yet. Doesn't mean that we can't go there. But all future societies are only activated once we've reached an advanced tech level. Tech level advanced 2, tech level advanced 5, tech level advanced 4. That means that we'll have to be basically in the end game to get any of these. That's okay, actually. So next we have the units in homeworld sector. So as you can see, sometimes it can happen that space will be a bit clustered. So for the homeworld, there's a special space, basically, where you can put all the units you have in the homeworld sector, which is here, as well next to the units available to be raised. Why is this important? Because as a wargame, each unit has 2 steps. You might have already seen something like this from other games. So you have one, the undamaged side, and as I flip it, you have a damaged side. doesn't look that very nice, but then again, it's functional, and I think that was what he was going for. Now, as you can see, the first fleet here is damaged. Now, you'll also see that each unit has several values next to it. Now, what do those values mean? Let me explain. You see, each fleet has 3 values, each legion has 2 values. This is a legion, this is a fleet. What's the difference? Well, first of all, legions can only move on ships or planets, basically sectors, while fleets can move in space, but not on planets, but around each sector. Now, each legion counter has several parts of information. First, we have the designation. For here it is fleet and the number 1 or 2. That means we have the first fleet and the second fleet. Now, what do we else have? We have 3 numbers. So, the first thing tells us the combat strength. Basically, a damaged fleet has combat strength 1, an undamaged one has combat strength 2. I apologize. Now, the second number is the transport capacity, which is basically how many legions can one of these transport. So as you can see, an undamaged fleet can transport 3 legions, a damaged can transport 2 legions. So, what's the last one? Obviously, because we're currently missing it, that's the movement. Exactly. So, why is movement important? Because basically I'm moving from sector to sector. And as you have already seen, if we want to move from somewhere like 10-6 to 1-1, that'll be kind of difficult. Though there's a trick to it, because there's the Stellar Void, but we'll come to that one later. For now, that's fleets. Let me flip that one back. So, because it would really be bad if we started with damaged fleets now, wouldn't it? What about legions? Well, legions are a bit different, but not that much. You see, legions are representing millions and hundreds of thousands of soldiers under your command. And they all have 3 informations next to the fact that they are a legion. You have unit designation, Legion 1, Legion 2, Legion 3. And because all ground units are designated with Roman numerals, you have 2 further values, the combat strength, and the second one, which is special, this is the policing value. Now, why is that important? Because it modifies unrest checks. Basically, when you have a legion on a planet, and someone tries to get uppity, you can, well, let's say, punch them down. You can end unrest by having legions stationed in different sectors. That's the second value. Is it interesting? Definitely. Is it important? Most likely. Now, lastly, we have a leader. As you can see, our leader is a charming, ruggedly handsome man with sideburn. Well, no. This is the first leader. We'll start game with the first leader. He has 2 very important values. They have a leader combat stat and a leadership value. So, the combat value, the first one, is added to all units under their command. Basically, when he leads a fleet of up to 1 or more units, you can basically add 1 to the full battle strength of your fleet, because he's that good of a leader. But how many ships can he take with him? Well, into battle he can take up to 3 ships, which isn't really 3 ships, it's more like he can command up to 3 different fleets in battle. That's a lot, actually. And as you can see right now, it's quite a bit more than we currently have. So, yeah. Now, what further do we have? We have units available to be raised, as I've told you already. The units available to be raised show those units we haven't yet built or those who were destroyed and are returning back to us. We'll get new units as our population increases and as time goes on, which you can see on the numbers track. Now let's take a closer look. The numbers track is a very important track during the complete game. As you can see, there are currently several markers. We'll talk about them in a second. Now, as you can see, the numbers track goes from 1 to 60. That's because it's also the turn track. And as you can see, there are several thick lines. Those designate the age. You see, turn 20 is the end of age 1, and turn 40 is the end of age 2. As you can see, age of power, age of survival. So, and 60 final turn. There are several other things standing right now. For example, on page turn 5, I always want to say page, I'm sorry, it's from War Machine. It's on turn 5 we have Legion, on turn 6 Fleet, on turn 7 Leader. What does that mean? Well, that's a special one. You see, on turn 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 14, 15, and so on, we'll get new units. And there's actually a normal schedule when you'll get them. You'll get a new Legion, able to be built on every 5th turn, and a new fleet every 6th turn, and a new leader every 7th turn. So basically, I can pre-add those down here. Now, and here I just realized that I've basically forgotten I've shut off the microphone. Well, damn. Now, as you can see, I've replaced, or basically pre-placed, all the important counters on the number and on turn track. So we have the legions, the coming prestige projects, the expeditions and the fleets, the leaders, and everything else coming in with different turns. Now, those are basically the expeditions are put on the expeditions track, as are the secret projects, because we can basically build them, but those are all for later time. Right now, the numbers track basically is for everything according to numbers and the turn track. So then we have the prestige projects. We have prestige projects expeditions. Those are prestige projects. Those are the expeditions. And 2 markers to show our progress. Now we have 4 steps to go through. The AI has 3 steps, but then again, they don't roll as often as we do in theory. Now, we have things from the energy exchange to the unified field theory to clinical immortality that we can achieve by adding up our technology level. How that is done, we'll explain later on. Here we have a Babylon project, which is top secret. I'm not going to tell anything about it. Basically, it's just a placeholder, I'm told. And the expeditions. Now, why are the expeditions and the prestige important? Because during the second age, you only gain victory points by finishing these. And you get a lot. Basically, during the height of the imperial power, prestige is all that counts. Now, when we have the range track, which is for the battlescape, basically for combat, where you can get additional dice roll modifiers, because only the attacker rolls, and this can basically influence just how bad combat can go. So, yeah, it's kind of, less than you'd expect in a game of this size, but then again, maybe it's just enough. We'll have to see. Then we have the random events track. We have the currently persistent event, which events which we can try to end, which are currently plaguing us, and the events already ended for the current age, where we'll place them once the flip side has been activated. Now, since events are always, taken off the track at the end of an age, this means that those will only stay and can plague us again, basically to increase difficulty. This is I'm told, an optional rule, by the way. Now, we have a diplomatic status down here for the Colmar Federation, the Gigian Republic, the United Systems of Centauri, and the Empire of Pangai. Now, we have neutral relations, hateful or peaceful. We can go from peaceful to hateful in a very few steps, but everyone starts at neutral. And basically what it means is that currently our relations to them are, they don't care about us, we don't care about them. As you can see, we have 3 neutral states and 1 extreme peace, 1 extreme war. Once we move onto the hateful and war place, war starts, and the enemy sends units into our territory to try to conquer us, while on the peaceful side, we can gain trade pacts increasing our funding, and basically increasing our political standing. Now, the AI on the diplomatic track also has a prestige and expeditions part. What does that mean? Basically, you see, each of these four nations is trying to compete with us in just about every way, and thus they are also building these prestige projects or trying for the expeditions. And they have only 3 phases, so in theory at least it should be easier for them. But unlike us, they can't invest additional spending, so basically for them it's something of a different kind of monster. Now, finally, we go to the stellar void. What's the stellar void? Now, as you can see on the stellar map, we have all these rim sectors and the periphery. For example, we have the northeastern periphery and the northwestern periphery, the southwestern and the southeastern periphery. Let's assume we have a unit we want to move from the southeastern periphery to the northwestern periphery. So as you can see, that's a lot of steps you have to take to get up there. So if you want to shorten this, you can say any unit on the rim or periphery to enter the stellar void. Now, what does that mean? The stellar void is basically some kind of warped space your units can enter to try to shorten basically any voyage. If you have ever played anything from Warhammer, it's basically the warp. So, why can that be bad? Well, basically, first of all, you have to end your movement in the stellar void once you enter, and for every fleet that entered, you roll 2d6, and on a 10 plus, well, bye-bye fleet. Basically, it's getting eaten by extra-dimensional monsters. Otherwise, if it doesn't, you can move from the stellar void to any rim or periphery sector on the stellar map, making this a very, very powerful tool to move around on the map quickly, which is kinda useful if you ask me, but again, it really depends. So, now as we are 50, let's go back to 80. Now, basically, that's most of the game, and 60 is okay. So, and as you've now learned just about anything important, I'd say we can go into the first round.